Welcome to Art by Rick. I'm Rick. Today I'm going to do a painting that I call Squeegee. This is just basically putting some paint onto a canvas and moving the paint around to make different designs. And you're going to use a very common tool, a squeegee. This is just a regular window squeegee. You know, you've seen them used for cleaning glass or cleaning windows or whatever. This is going to help me drag paint along the canvas so that I can get different effects. Now this is a rather good size one. I like to use this one because it allows me to make line impressions, and you'll see me do that a little later on in this show. But I also use different types of things to drag paint. I have small little pieces of wood here. I have a palette that just kind of lets me drag the paint in different directions. I can drag it flat, I can drag it so it's curved, again with different shapes that are here. I can even put designs in it. I have, for texturing, I have a palette that allows me to put a little bit of lines in different things. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a blank white canvas, this canvas here, again, my favorite size, 16 by 20. We're going to lay some paint on it, and we're going to drag that paint in different directions in a squeegee technique in order to make our abstract painting today. So, as always, let's head over to my preparation or painting table. I'll set it all up and I'll show you exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, for this painting, again, this is a squeegee technique. So I have my 16 by 20 canvas. This is a plain white canvas. I took the time to put some acrylic gesso on this to seal the canvas so my paint has something to adhere to. It's recommended that you seal a canvas before you put paints on it. Some artists don't. I try to not have a bleed through the canvas, you know, to the other side, and I want my paints to dry on the top of the painting and not dry into the canvas itself. So basically that's why I go ahead and prepare it. Some artists, if they're doing different paintings, you can see the back of this. It's just a stretch canvas that's over a frame. Some artists will tape or put some painter's tape along the edges here. So if there's any curl over, it doesn't cause this canvas to bow, so it makes it easier to hang it flat on a wall. I'm going to be doing this painting in such a way where I don't expect much, if anything, to drip off to the sides. But if it does, we'll deal with it. We want to use our paints and we want to make them kind of thick. So I've picked some colors here. I have a couple of blues, a green, black, red, you know, so on and so forth as far as paints are concerned. And this is where I don't really need to mix my paints. I just need to apply my paint to the canvas itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paint, I'm going to shake the bottle here to get some started, and I'm going to put my paint on the canvas kind of thick because I want to drag this along. So I'm going to make some lines on my canvas here. I'm doing the blue. And I'm going to have some fun with some light blue here. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to actually just use it right out of the thing here and just kind of dribble it a little bit. This is a nice light blue. Okay. I'll put some green on here. Green paint. And I'll follow that up with a little bit of red. And again, I'm just adding the red. I'm adding, you know, some things because I'm going to drag these into each other throughout the canvas. So I'm just adding some paints here. And again, this is going to mix together. It's going to blend together. It's going to make some interesting designs, I hope. We'll brighten it up with a little bit of the yellow. And again, I'm putting this on kind of thick because I plan to drag it. Okay. And as always, I always add a little bit of white on here. And just for contrast, some black dots. All right, that gives me a lot of paint to work with on this. Now I'm going to keep some paper towel handy. I have my roll of paper towel all ready. I keep some water handy for cleanup because as I make a mess here dragging the different things through the paint, I'm going to need to clean them up. So let's start with our big squeegee. So we're going to just squeegee this paint. So basically I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to push up here and I'm going to pull down. And I'm using a very, very light touch as I'm pulling down through the canvas. Very light touch. Pull up. And I'm just going to lightly pull down. And I'm not worried about the spots that aren't covering, folks, because I'm going to go back and go in different directions on this. So again, I'm going up and just lightly pulling down. So now that gives me a start as to what I'm planning to do here. And as always, I'm trying to keep my tools clean so that the paint doesn't harden on my squeegee. So I'm just wiping that off. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in some different directions here. So I'll pick a different shape, and now I'm going to draw my paint in different directions. So I'm just kind of drawing through here. We'll see what we come up with. Just pulling the paint, pulling the paint, pulling the paint, pulling the paint in different directions. And where I have little spots that are showing, I like to use my little pieces of paint to kind of just cover those spots up. So I'm going to drag this through. And I'm just kind of covering those white spots up. And again, I'm just making a design here as I'm just squeegeeing through the canvas. And I'm going to try and get this all the way to the edge. All the way to the edge as I'm going through here. Dragging it through. Again, there's quite a lot of paint on here, so I need to be kind of careful as to how I'm doing this. Now let's give it some interest. Let's see what we can do to kind of make this a little interesting. Again, we're using a squeegee style technique. So we're going to make some lines in here and also some designs. So I'm taking a special squeegee piece of plastic that I have here, and this is going to allow me to put some lines on here. So again, I'm just going to draw through to give me a different kind of effect. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah, so again, we're getting a different effect in here. We'll put this one aside. And then I like to use the main squeegee for making some impressions or lines. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some lines in here. And you know, you can't really see these in here as it is, but I'm just pressing the lines into the canvas to give it a little bit of depth, a little bit of a look on here. So we're just creating some lines. Now, one of the things that you can do with the edges here, since we have some paint that's dribbled off, I'll sometimes take my hand and I'll just seal the edge of the canvas just by using my hand. And basically just kind of go along here and kind of fill in the white on the sides. I use this on the bottom a little bit. This is what you call really getting into your paintings, folks. You're just kind of getting your hands all messy to seal it up. We have paint that kind of dripped off the sides here, so I'm just going to use that to seal the canvas. All right. So as this dries, some of this paint will start to spread a little bit, so it won't look so mixed up. But again, this is the general idea of what I've done with this particular painting. I used the squeegee technique to basically take the paints and scrape them on the canvas. Where there's a little bit of thick paint, I want to be careful because I don't want to move this too much. But again, this is just any kind of helter-skelter patterns on here, squeegeeing by pulling the paint down through and mixing the paint, allowing me to use different tools in order to get different effects on the canvas itself in order to get different colors. And again, I'll let this set up and then we'll talk about some of the other things that you might want to try. As far as how to do designs on here, so I'll be back in just a moment. So the painting I did today basically is a squeegee technique. So as you watched, you saw me put the paint on the canvas and just basically use different tools, different types of squeegees, especially the window squeegee, and just drag the paint in different directions. I even used a piece of plastic that has some texture to it to make some lines in the painting to give it a little bit of depth, give it a little bit of interest. So let's just kind of take a quick look at this painting. Again, it's different colors. It's put on the canvas. I'll zoom in here so you can kind of take a good look at it. And there you go, filling the screen up with the painting itself. So colors all over the place, different directions, different textures, using a squeegee in order to get that design on the canvas. Let's head back over to the work table and we'll talk a little bit more about today's painting. Okay, I'm back over at my work table and I thought I'd talk a little bit about what we did today. We did what was called the squeegee technique or a squeegee painting, and as you saw on the prep table, I laid down a piece of 16 by 20 canvas that I had sealed with an acrylic gesso. I put some stripes of paint on it, thick paint. I didn't thin the paint, I didn't prep the paint anywhere, it's just straight out of the bottle. Picked my colors and squeezed it onto the canvas in various different ways. And then I used a squeegee to basically draw that paint down through the canvas. And I could have stopped right then and there. I could have just drawn it down and left it that way and it would have looked just fine. But I decided to go a little bit further, so I used other shapes, other types of squeegees. This is just a piece of plastic here. I had one with a little bit of a round tip that I used. I took another one that had a little bit of a textured edge that I used on the canvas. You don't have to buy all these special tools. If you like, you can just use anything to drag the paint down. Something as simple as pieces of a cardboard box. You know, you can cut your own little cardboard pieces in different sizes and use that to drag the painting down. You can even use other pieces of plastic if you like. Now, I use this particular squeegee tool because I made impressions. You saw me push onto the painting to make some lines, just to kind of give it a little bit of character, a little something extra to look at. Very, very simple painting to do, but you are putting your paint on this canvas pretty thick, so it's going to take a while to set up. Have yourself set up, I set up what I call a drying table. I have a countertop that's separate from my work table, separate from my prep table, where I'm able to take a painting, put that painting aside, and let it sit for a day, sometimes 2 days. I've done paintings that have to sit at least 3 days before they're dry enough to handle or to hang. But you want to set it aside, let that paint have a chance to dry. You can encourage the paint to dry a little bit. I've used a hair dryer to apply a little heat, making sure I'm just getting some gentle air onto the canvas and I'm not blowing the paint around. That's a completely different technique, but just kind of encouraging it to dry. And one of the other things that I'll do is I'll take the canvas itself and I'll prop the canvas up. I'll use paper cups, quite honestly, and I'll as stilts to kind of hold the painting up so air can get underneath the canvas as well as air circulating around the top of the canvas to help that paint dry. What I like to do at the end of each show is I like to hold up the painting that we're doing. So this one's still a little bit wet, so I'm going to be kind of careful with it. But again, this is our squeegee painting. This is the painting that we did. And again, we just drew some colors with the squeegee across the canvas. I'm not going to tilt this too far because I don't want the paints to run. But again, the nice thing about an acrylic abstract painting is you can put it in different directions if you want to. I have this drying on my work table, as I said. I've got it drying on some stilts, or actually I use some paper cups, quite honestly, to keep it elevated so that air will circulate all around it and it will have a chance to dry thoroughly before I hang it on the wall. So, this has been Art by Rick, and I'm Rick. We've done, about a dozen shows here on Nutmeg Television. Each one of the shows that I've done has demonstrated a different type of technique, a different way in doing abstract art. I've had the privilege to have one of my pieces of art displayed at one of the major hospitals. It's on display now, and hopefully it will be on display for a little while. And when they switch them out and allow some more paintings to come in, I plan to submit a few more paintings that I do. The idea is to have some fun with it, be creative with it. We've done everything from splatter paintings to spin paintings to drop paintings, squeegee type like I just did, squiggles, impression paintings, all different types of techniques and styles. You're going to find that if you get into abstract painting, you'll find what you like to do. I favor acrylic pours. That's quite honestly when you mix some paints up and pour them on the canvas and then tilt the canvas in different directions, allowing the paint to flow across the canvas to give you different designs. There's ways that you mix the paint. There's an acrylic pouring medium that you use that helps thin the paint and helps the paint slide along the canvas, and that's kind of fun to do, although it's very messy. Preparation is key when you're painting, folks. Make sure you have some clean brushes, different styles, different shapes. Plan on what you're going to do. Some artists will take a pencil and actually kind of draw out what they're planning to paint, and then they'll follow their drawing as they're putting things together. Other artists just kind of wing it. They see what they see and they try to duplicate it on canvas. Me, I take the time to plan what I want to do. And as you see, a lot of my paintings go pretty quickly because I put a lot of thought into it and pretty much made a plan as to how I want the painting to come out and what I want to do with it. As I go through the next few shows here at Art by Rick, we're just going to do some painting. No particular style in mind. I'm just going to plan to share some paintings with you, have some fun, tell some stories, do different techniques. I might mix it up a little bit and do some painting on the easel or do some paintings flat on the work table. I may even put a painting or two on the floor if I do what I call a double pour, where I need a lot of space to move around. Each time I go to do a painting, you'll see me prepare. I cover everything in plastic. I make sure I'm wearing an apron. I keep water handy. I keep, spray bottles handy. I keep lots of paper towel handy to clean up my work or clean up as I'm going along, trying to keep my tools fresh and clean so that I only mix paint when I want to mix paint together and not accidentally. You can do other types of paintings. I've done impression paintings where I've used different objects to just press into the canvas and make different impressions along the way. You could even use body parts. I've seen people use their elbows or their arms, or one particular artist used the side of his face. I think that's cool. That's a great way of doing some impression paintings. Just make sure you have a shower, where you can shower that paint off. You don't want it drying too much on you. You can do splatter paintings as I did in the very first Art by Rick show, where you're just throwing painting at a canvas. Whatever you feel like doing, you have to decide where you want your painting to go, how you want to display it, what the colors are you want to use, and what kind of technique is going to best suit what you're trying to do or trying to accomplish. I have a lot of art pieces hanging throughout my home. I have a lot of art pieces even hanging in my garage. Just paintings I've done over the years, different techniques, different things I've tried. And I'll be honest with you, as an artist, some of them I love. I think they're beautiful. Others I look at and say, not so good. I've had people look at my not so good paintings and say, those are terrific. So everybody sees what they want to see in the painting. Everybody has a different opinion. Just have fun. Just have fun. There's no pressure. You're doing artwork to be expressive. I do it as a way of relaxing. It's just a fun thing to do. My name is Rick, and this has been Art by Rick, and I'll see you during the next series of the shows. Have a great day.
Nick Augustino right here at the East Side Restaurant. We always have the complete full dinner menu. Knockwurst, bratwurst, sauerbraten, potato pancakes, red cabbage, rice pudding, cream pies, all the desserts that Germany had to offer. I always do something different. Yes, I do. I brought seafood to the beer garden at the East Side Restaurant. East Side Restaurant, your German destination restaurant in Connecticut. Tiki-taka, hoy, hoy, hoy!